Thanks everyone, and glad to be here. We are here to present about FinOps Hub 2.0 and AI-powered Cloud FinOps with Eric Lam. He's the head of Cloud FinOps at Google Cloud Professional Services, and I am Srini or Srinivasa. I'm a staff solutions consultant, also called as technical account manager here at Google Cloud. I'll be covering FinOps Hub 2.0 on GCP with Gemini Cloud Assist. And Eric will be covering the second half of the session with respect to AI forecasting and stuff. Are you able to hear me quite fine? Good. Right. So before going to like GCP FinOps Hub 2.0, let's take a quick walk through memory lane before we jump into the actual topic. I'll just quickly show like a few slides to see how far FinOps Hub has come. FinOps Hub is a GCP built-in tool that provides a centralized place to see your GCP cost optimization recommendations and review your FinOps scorecard with all cost recommendations, up-level metrics, easy discovery and analysis, finally prioritize the opportunities. So just like the one or two screenshots I was telling about, on the top right, you can see like time-sensitive actions that can impact your cost. The optimization key performance indicators give customers an easy to understand view into realized savings as well as the size of their savings opportunity. Exploring cost savings opportunities by say service or projects, and finally identifying other saving opportunities by just glancing at the top recommendations and in the bottom arrow here quickly. So that's a lot of value add for customers. And one more feature quite helpful for a lot of our customers is helping customers drive FinOps cultural transformation and accountability of their costs, providing pointers and recommendations of how customers can improve their FinOps practices, motivate customers to improve and mature their FinOps practices. Actually, this has helped a lot of our customers to do better in the FinOps space overall. And now let's come to the important topic now of the afternoon, like FinOps Hub 2.0. And in part, like we owe our pace of innovation to the amazing technological advances of Gen AI and Gemini Cloud Assist. We have always been an AI first company, it's our DNA, but when applying this technology to like financial information, we have always been extremely thoughtful, targeting areas of greatest need for the FinOps community with accuracy and aligning closely with the focus standards. So now this starts with a journey of viewing and actually understanding your costs. So let's dig into that part. With cost driver insights, you need cost driver insights of applications and workloads because it's hard to optimize the things which you actually can't see. Gemini Cloud Assist with cost reports now also supports viewing costs by AppHub applications. Viewing costs isn't about one service, it's about the collection that create value for your business in a workload or application. You can now use Gemini Cloud Assist to generate custom cost reports based on natural language queries such as, what are my staging costs? It picks up like your user generated labels and tags. You can ask something like, where am I spending the most money? What are my Vertex AI costs? But you don't have to face the blank canvas prompting problem. We also suggest cost reports for you as well. And every report now comes with even more richer insights. So you can see where your cost drivers are more easily across projects, regions, SKUs, multiple dimensions, and the answers are grounded and auditable by your own cost data and visual reporting actually. And so now we have a good picture on the cost. Like, okay, now what are we going to do about workload optimization and waste optimization? That's the most important part. Excuse me. The journey starts with like understanding costs, but when it actually comes down to optimization, things can get difficult quite fast. Let me touch base on new capabilities with FinOps Hub, which are like Gemini-powered experiences, FinOps Hub 2.0, and new optimization recommendations in the same order. Let's deep dive into the optimization parts here. So we understand, sometimes optimizing your cloud can actually, uh, feel like searching of a needle in a haystack, right? Environments can be complex with hundreds or even thousands of projects, countless resources spread across different regions and services. The big questions always are, where are my biggest optimization opportunities hiding, and where should I start, like on a specific project, a particular region, or tackle a certain service first, which can lead to analysis paralysis or missed savings. This is precisely where Gemini Cloud Assist comes in. It provides proactive cost optimization insights directly within your workflow, removing any guesswork so you can have like the maximum impact. I mean, it just looks like exactly the way here it is on the screen. And the other most important part, which is like finding the waste and taking action, that's what like most of us would like to do to actually show the impact. In FinOps Hub 2.0, we correlate granular resource level cost data with utilization metrics to find waste and tell you exactly how to optimize. This started with 4 services initially: Google Compute Engine, Kubernetes Engine, Cloud SQL, and Cloud Run, with more services to come. We detect things like idle resources, right sizing opportunities, and suboptimal configurations. Also, we integrated with AppHub. If anyone doesn't know what AppHub is, it's a way to organize your resources logically like an application and have observability and a lot of other metric gathering, etc., in one spot according to your business goals. Uh, with the integration with AppHub, it also allows you to analyze these optimization opportunities directly through the lens of your specific applications. Now you might be thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually understand and quantify the potential waste across my entire organization? That's where my waste map comes in. One of my favorite features in FinOps Hub 2.0 is like it provides a clear, intuitive visualization, as you could see on the screen, the one in light blue here. But we don't stop there. We have Gemini directly integrated with FinOps Hub to take action on focused prioritization. Ask Gemini to analyze your entire billing account and identify the projects with the highest cost of waste. It'll dynamically refresh the waste map that you're seeing on the screen now, instantly highlighting where you should focus your attention first. And then you can summarize and send that email. By identifying waste is one thing, fixing it actually requires teamwork. Gemini can now draft a tailored communication email that you can use to collaborate with your DevOps, finance, engineering, business teams to actually take action. This itself is like a big value add for a lot of our customers who are working with us. This helps teams to collaborate and tackle important things. And now let's look at like specific new optimizations with respect to some products like GKE, GCE, and others. For Kubernetes engine, we are tackling areas like identifying idle clusters, over provision clusters, for right sizing, flagging, under provision clusters, for performance risks, etc. For compute engine, under provision VMs that might need upsizing, helping you maximize your GCE reservations by identifying idle or underutilized reservations. We're also providing insights for cloud run CPU allocation to ensure you have configuration settings where you can save money. And finally, we have Cloud SQL. We've added under provisioned SQL instances that could pose a business risk if they fail. Uh, these are the rest of the recommendations we support in FinOps Hub. For reference, there are a bunch of these across Cloud Run, Cloud SQL, Compute Engine, and other services. Now let's cover the last rung of my section, which is about additional features related to multi-project access. It is actually exciting to see utilization insights now within FinOps Hub, and that we can help our customers pinpoint waste and optimize even more. But like, it's not good enough, having all this tooling if you can't actually get it out to those which need it the most, which is where we need to, focus on other parts of this circle, which is operate. So coming to multi-project access, it was a customer once said like, okay, so FinOps Hub is great, but I want to give this to my pharmacy department or some other department. Many of our customers actually use projects today to organize and segment their costs. It's one of the greatest things about Google Cloud. It comes with this great out of the box to organize resources today. So we have a lot of customers using projects to do this. In fact, the question is like, are there any folks here which are, I mean, who are project owners but don't have permissions for tools today, since there aren't a billing administrator? There might be a lot of you. I mean, I've seen it with my customers too. Well, now you can actually request access to see cost reports for all the projects that you own, uh, as well as including for FinOps Hub too, for your own set of projects, without becoming actually a billing administrator. This is still in private preview, as you can see, through the new project billing uh, cost manager role, without being a billing administrator. But like, for folks, I mean, who use custom roles, we also have fine-grained permissions you can enable as well. Given this is a big change for us in our permissions, we are actually gating this with a sign up form. So if you're interested in gaining access, say you're a FinOps practitioner who does want to give cost reports or FinOps Hub to an engineering line of business or other teammates in your organization, now you can. So you can scan this barcode and sign up for the preview by filling a form. That's all from my side. I think we are on time to start the next one with Eric. Eric, over to you.
Thanks, Srini. First of all, apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. As Srini mentioned, my name is Eric Lam. I'm head of Cloud FinOps within Google Cloud Consulting, part of a Delta team. We work with customers like yourself and from advisory to designing and implementing FinOps solutions. So I do want a quick thank you and a shout out to Victor and team here for organizing such a great event. So just a little bit about Google Cloud. In this space, we have been one of the early co-founding members with the FinOps Foundations. Certainly, we were the early members who also have FinOps certified professional practitioners, associate practitioners, and also one of the early members in being a service provider certified as well. So moving on, as Srini mentioned about how we are enabling our customers on using the FinOps Hub to manage your native sort of GCP spend. I want to shift the focus, and this is hence focus, right? A good segue here is how do we see many of the customer in reality is also multi-cloud, right? They have one or more cloud in their environment. So how are they sort of implementing a single pane of glass view, and how are we helping them? And I also want to share with you what some of the key lessons learned as we've been helping a lot of strategic accounts and enterprise driving this multi-cloud solutions. So anchoring on the FinOps sort of foundation with the inform, optimize, sort of operate stage, we've also been working with many customers from different mature level of FinOps maturity to very large global customers, right? Fundamentally, there are 5 key building blocks for success, and we have heard in the last 2 days a lot of these concepts. Matter of fact, right? Driving accountability and enablement, right? Is this really FinOps is about how do you enable others, engineers, finance folks, product team to adopt and embrace the FinOps discipline. The second part is measurement and realizations. Once you have that dedicated core team, how do you measure success? How do you track it? How do you realize those KPIs and metrics? Like how do you change the conversations from the early sort of metric around, hey, I save X percentage of storage spend, to a more business-centric discussion where I can help drive a customer impact and revenue. The third area is cost optimizations. as FinOps practitioner, we all know this is a continuous discipline, right? FinOps Foundation often talk about usage optimizations, pricing optimization, well also architectural optimizations. If you can go back to the previous slide screen, we also talk about planning and forecasting. I will show you, how are we, as we build up a multi-cloud FinOps solution. Certainly, the predictive analytics machine learning model can enable forecasting and drive better accuracy as well. And then finally, right, there's a number of tools, accelerate out there. You need to bring this home. The tool and technology is as good as the people in the process who are actually using it. So next slide. So one of the common questions that when I work with customer and advise them on FinOps, often ask me is, how do I evaluate the number of cloud cost management tools out there, and should I build versus buy, right? That's often an age-old question. First, fundamentally, you do need to consider what's the license and pricing model, right? Certainly, it varies by every single provider, every single vendors. So understanding how does that work, and what's the sort of total cost of ownership of that tool. The second piece is integration and supportability, right? At the end of the day, whether you use a SaaS-based vendor tool or an in-house homegrown solution, you have to integrate into your existing workflow to make it work for you and make it relevant. So understanding what is that low effort and the ease of integration is so important to drive adoption, right, of your FinOps tooling. And then there is features and capability, right? As you think about a multi-cloud world, right? Not all there's not the equivalent parity at all scales and size and features. There might be some features that are available in one cloud versus the other, and might not exist. So understand what those feature gaps and parities are will be one of the key aspects to inform you what is the best tools out there. And at the end of the day, we have seen a mix of both, right? Where customers build and buy new tools, but also they have to do some sort of integration and continuous development on it. So next slide, then, I'll show you like the step-by-step that we have seen, right? And this is, certainly built on the fact that, a typical customer, right? You want to take through a crawl, walk, run sort of maturity in order to drive adoption of the tooling, but also understanding, how you're going to integrate and roll this out, right? In the phase approach. First, in a crawl manner, define what the personas are, right? A lot of time when I talk to FinOps practitioner, they're overwhelmed. There's so many reports, so many dashboards. Which one really matters? Which one should I really look at? Right? Identify the right persona and create the right dashboard for them so they can make better informed decision. We often talk about data-driven informed decision, but also the fact is you have to tailor those dashboards to the right stakeholders, right? So that's what we call persona-based reporting. In order to get that, you definitely need to have the right data, the right tags, right? And that's fundamental as your first step. Once you have the persona identified, you have the tags created so you can visualize it, then you can ingest other cloud, right? That's when you start creating that unified schema with focus, create the data pipeline for ingesting historical data, new data, right? How do you amend all that stuff? Then creating some insights. Once you have the data across the cloud, you can create insights, you can do cost allocation, you can do showback and chargeback. That's the second evolution of maturity of your tooling. Then the third, once you have that in place and the data in place, right? Because then you can do cost anomaly, you can do forecasting, you can then track your KPIs and do better integrations. A lot of time when we think about cost anomalies, right, you do need a set of historical data, right? For cost anomaly to work effectively, you need to understand, when you feed into a machine learning model, what is that usage patterns over time look like? At what level of granularity of anomaly detections you want to generate? One common sort of complaint here a lot from many customers is sometimes the anomaly can generate a lot of noises, especially if you are going through a transformation, right, in your respective organizations. So how do you minimize those noise depends on how effective you are tracking your anomaly, the frequency level of your anomaly detection. One common feature I've been asked is, how do I do real-time anomaly detection, right? Because every cent, every penny counts. And the reality is that, if you just based on your cloud bill, that might not be the real time, right? It's near real time. So how do I do that, and so forth? So we do have work with customers to try to solve for near real time and real time anomaly detection as well. Next slide, Srini. Okay, so that's the step to build sort of the high level footprint. What I'm going to share with you is then, how do you enable that with AI, right, to drive FinOps at scale? So you hear over the last couple of days, right, there's a lot of, agentic FinOps, using AI to drive FinOps adoptions. There's many great ideas and solutions out there. And we have been exploring these sort of 5 key ones that we have successfully deployed with many customers. One is the cost estimation AI agent. Imagine your CFO or one of the business leader, hey, how much does this, what does this application workload cost to move to Google Cloud, AWS, or Azure, or OCI, right? Pick your cloud service provider of choice. Try to answer that question is actually not easy. There's online calculator out there. There's a lot of spreadsheets, right, that I have seen teams try to fill out to try to answer that questions. There's no easy streamlined way to do that. So we're building an agentic sort of multi-agent approach to understand what is your current footprint look like, map it to the technology component stack, and then from the technology component of the application workload into what the equivalent cloud services might be, and then from then on, calling the right SKU and pricing API to streamline the cost and try to answer the one basic question. The second is cloud cost anomaly, and we hear a lot about this. And we actually been building the cost anomaly solutions, 2-3 years ago, matter of fact, right? And we were the first to be able to not only ingest, from GCP, which is native export into BQ, and then with BigQuery, you have the machine learning ARIMA plus to do time series based predictive analytics, and then that based on that we can detect the patterns, figure out what's the upper bound threshold, lower bound threshold, then showcase what the anomaly might be, right? And what's introduced into that sort of predictive machine learning model is that you can do reinforcement learning, right? With the feedback loop, like, hey, we're expecting this workload or this time of the year or the month or the week or the day that we're gonna expect a spike. So training the model over time of what there might be a potential spike might be, and it learns itself, so self-reinforcement learning, and then it'll minimize those noises. With the same reference architecture, with the same machine learning model, you can do forecasting as well, right? If you're able to detect anomaly over time, you can also provide better forecasting. One area of this is we have introduced the ARIMA plus XREG. What that means is that you can do a multivariate sort of forecasting. Not only we are based on your historical data, we can insert your business drivers, your sales campaign, any other data that's externalized that might impact your cloud spend can be input into your forecast model to drive better forecast accuracy. And then the last two is really about how do you generate insights, right? That's the power of Gen AI, is to, based on the vast amount of data and the corpus of data, how do you create a more intelligent dashboard, summarize it in a way that's, as a FinOps practitioner, surface those metrics, surface those recommendations that I actually really care about. Because I don't want to comb through all these dashboards and report on a daily, weekly basis. I want you to surface me, provide me recommendations on things that matter most to me. All right, next slide. Next slide. Yep. And so this is the reference architecture that we sorry, go back. Yep, that we built. So starting at the bottom, right? That is the multi-cloud, right? GCP, AWS, Azure, your cloud service provider of choice. With focus data. That data, and then you can also integrate with FinOps Hub recommendation data that Srini was talk about. You can also integrate with forecasting driver, cost allocation rules, and other business driver as well. So I call this sort of bottom layer is the FinOps sort of intelligent data lake. What feeds this data lake then is then you put on top is the BigQuery. So you store all that into BigQuery, enterprise data warehouse, and within BigQuery you can use the BQML ARIMA Plus model. The ARIMA Plus model allows you to do predictive analytics that drive and power the anomaly detection or forecasting and many other things. But also you can connect that because of the tight integrations into Vertex AI with the latest Gemini 2.5 Pro to generate more insights and so forth. And the beauty of this is because it's tightly integrated with Looker, right? Our Looker platform allows you to do and create that semantic layer. Because a lot of time when we think about multi-cloud, you need to have a common definition, right? What's the cost of X services? So the definition of cloud cost, the interpretation of that varies, right? Is it gross cost? Is it net cost? Is it cost before tax credit and so forth? So having that semantic layer allow you to define the key definition that every single person and within your organization speaks the same language. And what that powers is personalized reporting, right? For personalized, like you want to create a persona-based dashboard for the CFO, right? Because your CFO, he or she might care about what's my actual versus my forecast, what's my top revenue growth for the month, for the year, for the quarter. You want to have conversation regarding your FinOps data. You want to draw optimization, anomaly detection, and then you want to measure, right, what that unit economics might be. That can power many things, and these are some of the key examples I mentioned. Next slide. So let's double click into the anomalies sort of workload, because this is the one common question you get asked a lot, right? What type of workloads so that typically will generate anomalies? So you want to make sure that you categorize it accordingly. You might have a steady workload as you're operating your business usual, and then over time there might be a drift in your upper bound and lower bound consumption. That's fine. And then you might have seasonality workload, right? Maybe you're having a marketing campaign. You especially if you're in retail space, you might be a holiday, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? Spike in your e-commerce website, so you want to make sure you adjust for the seasonality workload. You might be, in the stage of where your companies are doing active migration, right, from on-prem to the cloud. So informing the machine learning model, there's this migration schedule going on, and there's active migrations, right? That will also impact and help you think through how you should minimize the noise of your anomaly detection. And then there might be spike in this of unpredictable workload that might change over time as well. So these are common things that we see as you think about developing a comprehensive cost anomaly solution. Next slide. So to that extent, this is a example of a dashboard solution we built, right? So the anomaly, based on the reference architecture you've seen earlier, we can build a multi-cloud cost anomaly capability, right? Because at the end of the day, in order to detect anomalies across your cloud spend, basically you need very minimal data in a way that what's the specific skill or services, the time and event of that sort of transactions, right? And what's the cost and the unit cost of those sort of services. So with primary sort of data set, you can easily get over time. Maybe typically we recommend of 13 months of data, right? So you want to make sure that you have enough sufficient data to then have the machine learning model learn about your data, set the upper and lower bound threshold, and then customize and filter as you think through it. The other part of this anomaly solution that not only we feed in the machine learning model to do and identify what is the services, the skill that cost anomaly. The reason why we introduced Gemini is then based on Gemini, it can then create recommendations. Once you identify the root cause, how should I go about fixing it? Right? So recommendation to fix the anomaly will be very important. And that's where the Gen AI insights come in. And what the Power Looker, what it does is then you can also connect and create webhooks into Slacks, into your email, into your ServiceNow ticket, into Jira, right? So it can, when an anomaly is being detected, you can then create this integrated workflow. So engineers can then take action on it. So it becomes an end-to-end loop from the initial anomaly detections to anomaly, so root cause analysis and recommendations through a ticketing, where someone's been notified and alert and engineer taking action on it. All right, next slide. So that's all great. How do I actually build this? Right. So this is the sort of how we think about a multi-cloud sort of building data ingestion pipeline might look like. Starting with Google, you have the billing export. Matter of fact, you have standard billing and detailed billing. Recommendation is always go with the detailed billing. So because then you have more columns, more fields that you can gather, and it's natively export to BQ, right? So you have that sort of direct access. For AWS and Microsoft Azure, AWS code file that get exported to S3. The great news here is with our BigQuery data transfer service, there's a native connector from S3 into BQ. So you can use the BigQuery data transfer service to automatically load the data into BQ. Similar with Azure, there is a native connector through the data transfer service. So your Azure blob can then be transferred and loaded into BigQuery as well. With OCI, there's one additional step though. You do have to use the GCP storage transfer service right now to then put and dump and load the data into the Google Cloud Storage bucket. And from there on, then you pick it up with the BQ data transfer service into BQ. So the idea here is that when we see successful customers is you want to do an ELT, not ETL, right? So we want to extract the data, load it, and then later transform. And this is where focus comes in, right? You want to have a standard unified data schema when you put it into a BQ. And that's a very important step because you want all this raw data. And then once you have that, then you can visualize through the local dashboard or any BI platform of your choice. All right, next slide. So as we've been doing this for a while for many of our customers, I'm going to share with you, some of the key lessons learned when you think about implementing a multi-cloud solution. The first one, and as many of you have been sort of sharing, tagging is definitely very important, right? So Google Cloud, our tags are all lowercase, and it's certainly case sensitive, right? When you have the other AWS tag, Azure, there's can be upper lowercase as well, and there's the number of characters you can have in your key value pairs. So harmonizing that, right, upfront, and with using unified schema like Focus is very critical, right? So that when you roll up the cost and you do the sum by the SQL query, you actually have the right appropriate sort of columns and data that you're querying against. The second common challenge we see, what we call the fruit salad problem, is especially when we work with global customers, right? If you and who are multi-cloud, you might have customers, you might have a business unit in Europe, and a AWS account running there, and then the currency invoice might be in euros, and you have a business unit operating in US with US dollar currency, and if you just simply try to sum it up, certainly that become a challenge and the data is not accurate. So understanding what that data model is and creating that sort of conversion upfront is also a other piece to consider. The third piece we often hear this is your data, especially your billing data, is not in real time. And oftentimes, right, whether it's even from Google, right, we have 24 hours sort of latencies. At most, right? We've been trying to accelerate that across many of our services so that those billing information are become more and more timely because that's what our FinOps community is asking us for. But then the reality, you do want to set the right expectation, right? With the executive, when they see a dashboard and they see a mismatch, they'll be questioned. But setting that right expectation of what they're seeing, and understanding that the billing data is not in real time. Next slide. So a few other lessons learned. In addition to that, right? I mentioned earlier, having the organization speaking the same language is so important, right? The definition of what's the cost varies by the users themselves. So when we talk about cost, is it gross cost, post-credit cost, net cost, cost after discount and whatnot? So creating that common language is so important. And again, right, that's what we can do with the local ML code. You create that semantic layer, and that allow you to do that. The one size fits none problem. I mentioned that earlier as well, right? Creating dashboard for dashboard 6 is not going to help anybody. You want to build a persona-based dashboard in a correct manner that's important to the right stakeholder. So when you think about building your own multi-cloud solution, the very first step is figuring out who are the personas, what's the use case for those personas that you care about. Once you identify the persona, the use case for them, identify what the data that they need. Once you have the data they need to show, then you create the dashboard, right? If you try to create also a dashboard up front and show them those dashboards that's not relevant, they're not going to care about it. And then finally, the historical data and scale issues, right? So understanding when when you create this sort of orchestration data pipeline, which is the reference architecture I shared earlier, it might look oversimplified, but creating that data pipeline and orchestrating that pipeline across multi-cloud, whether AWS account, Azure subscription, and GCP project, is so critical, right? Spend more time upfront having that robust data ingestion pipeline orchestrating, and that is critical, right? To making sure that the data you get in a multi-cloud world, and when you visualize it, right, you actually have the right information. Else, you will see quite a mismatch. So those are the common sort of 6 lessons learned what we see with many customers when we help them implementing the multi-cloud solutions. So next slide. This, as you all know, right, FinOps is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it's an iterative journey, right? You want to do a crawl, walk around approach. In early crawl stage, having the right tagging, having the right solutions, and so forth will be important. Then a walk, definitely you want to have that insights and dashboard, and then a run, when you want to ensure that your FinOps discipline are embraced, and then there's reinvestment throughout. All right, I think I'm running out of time. I really appreciate, I know it's late Friday afternoon, and I really appreciate everyone's hanging on here and listening to our presentation. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, everyone.